Welcome back, everybody, to Legacy Politics. We just hit 272 subscribers to the YouTube channel. Can we get to 280? That is the question. So please like this video if you haven't already. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Today we're going to be talking about, is the United States and China in a Cold War? In a Cold War. And you might be thinking, well, how in the world are we in a Cold War? That makes zero sense. Well, I'm going to explain it to you. And first, let's talk a little bit about what a Cold War is. Right? So a Cold War is basically what I like to call an exchange of information. An exchange of information. It's not at men at arms. You're not at war with people. You're not at you don't have boots on the ground and all that, but it is an exchange. It is a war for an exchange of information. Now, U.S. and China relations have been very shaky due to the extensive tariffs that the Trump administration imposed for disputed workers. That's the China and U.S. relations right now. They're very shaky. There's current evidence of this Cold War. The diplomat in March of 2021 said, quote, "The United States and China never will fight each other directly, but rather they will do battle via proxies globally," end quote. Now, the diplomat sets it out perfectly here. The diplomat shows us that specifically the United States and China may never fight each other as far as men at arms and men at boots on the ground, but they are going to fight each other on an exchange of information. And that's the question. Will China fight us in an exchange for information? Well, the diplomat actually says that China is prepared for this exchange of information war. And we see this from the same article. It says, quote, "There are good reasons for this evidence of the war." It says, "China's invasion of Taiwan, Beijing has its strength in its hands to oversee the Beijing Rod," end quote. Now, it's specifically talking about a task force that China has been putting together to investigate what the United States is doing. Now, a lot of representatives in the House of Representatives and stuff like that, they have actually been alluding to this. Tulsi Gabbard actually alluded to this Cold War. She actually called on President Biden to notify what it is. So, is the United States and China in a Cold War? Well, I think to answer that question, we need to look at past precedent, right? We need to look at exactly what happened before in Cold War scenarios to label this specific instance as a Cold War. And I think there's nothing better than to look at the USSR versus the United States in their Cold War. Now, we have to remember here that the USSR was a complete global ideological movement, right? It was a movement. You either with us or you're not with us. That's why Germany split, because some of Germany was with them, some of Germany wasn't with them. And obviously you can make an argument that the Soviets claimed half of Germany and all that good stuff. But when we look to past precedent, the exchange of information pertaining to the nuclear crisis back in the 1970s or 60s or whenever the Cold War was, that is the past precedent that we have to measure here. Is it that bad? And I don't think it's that bad as far as the USSR and the United States back in the 60s and 70s, but the China is not on the same terms as the USSR. You have to remember that, once again, the USSR is an ideological political movement. The Washington Post in 2021 says, quote, "China is not an avatar of a global ideological movement," end quote. When you think of China and President Xi Jinping, you don't think of Stalin in the USSR. You don't think of a global ideological movement. So that's why the United States isn't really taking them that seriously. The Washington Post in March of 2021 said, quote, "China's Belt and Road Initiative has expanded from its network into a significant geopolitical enterprise," end quote. Now, what's that? What's the China Belt and Road Initiative? Well, I think it's the task force that I mentioned earlier in this video, and it's specifically talking about this task force to basically tell everyone or investigate in the United States doings is expanding from its network into a significant geopolitical enterprise, end quote. Specifically saying that this task force is not going away anytime soon, and we should be worried about what China is doing and this exchange of information in this Cold War. Now, I don't think we're on the brink of a Cold War, but I think we're also on the brink of war with China. Time magazine in 2021 said, quote, "The United States and China are on the foothills of a Cold War. The choices of the U.S. and China stumbling into a war are real and increasing. It will require the hard work of creating a national strategy to avoid this war," end quote. So it's not only talking about a Cold War, it's actually talking about a actual war with men at arms and boots on the ground. Now, President Biden has said that he's on good terms with Xi Jinping, the president of China, but I asked President Biden, are you on good terms enough? We don't need to be just on good terms. We need to be developing a national strategy. We need to be developing a national strategy to combat a possible Cold War, but not only a possible Cold War, but also the possibility of us being at actual war with China. Sorry about that. Being at actual war with China. It is so crucial that we get this in our heads and develop a national strategy. So is the China in a Cold War with the United States? They're not at Cold War yet, but they're on the brink of Cold War. But they're not only on the brink of Cold War, but they're also on the brink of war with China. I am warning everybody that we need to keep this on our eyes, and I challenge President Biden to not only just be friends with Xi Jinping, but also develop a national strategy to combat what China is doing. So guys, that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. And this is my answer. It is in China in a Cold War with the United States. That's the answer. And I think that we're on the brink of Cold War. We're not there yet, but we're on the brink. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, if you haven't subscribed, please do. 272. Can we get to 280? Thank you so much.